This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Agun Erev Shabbos Rabbi Say. Yesterday was a very busy day, but nevertheless, the Imam Shalom sent us a very interesting idea for Shabbos. And I want to tell you about a personality over the last 100 years, one of the really soaring personalities, great spirits, the Klausenberg Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda Halberstam, one of the really great, majestic personalities. Somebody who, as great as he was, when he came to the concentration camps and he came to Auschwitz especially, he was just like a malach Elokim Tzvakos. First of all, his wife and his 9 children were all taken away and were killed. In fact, the Klausenberg Rebbe, whenever he would come to Parshas Vayishlach, and he would read about how Yaakov Avinu crossed his family over the river, so the Klausenberg Rebbe would break out in tears. He would say, I also took my wife and 11 children over the river of blood, but they didn't make it through. And every year, Parshas Vayishlach, he would cry. He would say that his children had very heilige neshamas. They were so holy that his wife would not all cross them all together the street, lest they would attract ayin hara. But when the Klausenberg Rebbe came to Auschwitz, what most people worried about was where they're going to get their next morsel of bread, where they're going to get food. Klausenberg Rebbe, all he's worried about is his davening, his learning. People would be krechzing, people would be crying, and the Klausenberg Rebbe was heard saying, his worry was, when will the Rebbe Shem reveal himself and show himself? It was once a Shabbos, and he had some bread, and if anybody had bread in Auschwitz, you could imagine what they would eat it so fast, and he wasn't sure what to do. Should he make kiddush on the bread? Would that please Hashem? But on the other hand, he doesn't have water for Netilas Yadayim. So what's better, to make kiddush on the bread without Netilas Yadayim, or maybe to fast on Shabbos? And these are the kinds of things that he's occupied with, thinking about how he smuggled in tefillin into Auschwitz. Really one of the soaring personalities. And they beat him, and his mind was Roshei B'Shamayim. So it's well known that the Klausenberg Rebbe once said the following Drasha in Auschwitz. Okay, and here we have it on the sheet, on the second pasuk of this week's Parsha. Zois Chukas HaTorah, Asher Tziva Hashem Leimar. This is the statute of the Torah that Hashem commanded. Daber al b'nei Yisrael v'yikchu elecha Parah Adumah Tmima. Take the red cow, complete, Asher ein ba mum, that has no imperfection. Asher loy olo aleha oil. So it's brought down, and this comes from the biography of the Klausenberg Rebbe, called Lapid Eish, by, I believe, Rabbi Aaron Surasky. Also in the biography Mazla Tova, it's quoted in the V'Shalom Lo Yachzar. And I have it over here, and they just published. There are actually 2 parts of the Klausenberg Rebbe, one called The War Years, one called Rebuilding, and they just published it now in 1 volume. Highly recommend reading it. Very powerful read. He brings down here the drasha that the Klausenberg Rebbe said in Auschwitz. He said, Misha, on the second paragraph, Misha asak b'maka anarahu b'shelazu. Somebody who dealt with an issue about this week's Parsha was Ha'admar Rabbi Yehuda Halberstam, the Baal Shefa Chaim, the Klausenberg Rebbe. That in the Gehenna, his holy neshama revealed itself and energized itself to the highest of levels. And he darshaned about the following topic. Says the Klausenberg Rebbe, this pasuk, the first pasuk about the Parah Adumah, tells you the 3 things necessary to be successful in learning. Ha'echa, number 1, is we know you need to review your learning how many times? 101. Sheyasar al pirka mea v'yachapamim. Number 2 is you always have to imagine yourself in the presence of Hashem. Shivisi Hashem lenegdi. So now I'm going to tell you something. If you came to the Shiurim over the last 6 years here just to hear this, it was worth it. Okay? What does it mean? Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tamid. What does it mean to put Hashem before you always? Anybody know? What does it mean?
You have to live your life entirely as if you know that the Kodesh Baruch Hu is watching everything you do.
That's what you would think it means, right? Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tamid. But the first page on the Mishnah Berurah says from the Arizal, what does it mean? Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tamid. That wherever you go your whole life, you should envision the following before your eyes. Yud Kei Vav Kei. You're looking at your friend, you're looking down the street, you see Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's what it means. Shivisi, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Lenegdi Tav. But it's not enough. You also have to put vowels on it. What vowels? Nekudos, Yira. As if it was Yira, Chirik under the Yud, Shva under the Hey, Kamatz under the Vav. Nakud Yira. Nakud Yira means the same Nekudos as the word Yira. You don't have to look too far. All you need to do is open up the first page of the Mishnah Berurah. The first page of Mishnah Berurah, Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tamid. You should imagine, okay. And you know when you're going to start? You can start right now. If you forget to start now, when you walk out of the shul, you start tonight by Kiddush. Yom Hashishi Vayichulu Hashamayim Yud Kei Vav Kei. You imagine Yud Kei Vav Kei in front of you. Yom Hashishi Vayichulu Hashamayim. Nakud Yira. Chirik under the Yud, Shva under the Hey, Kamatz under the Vav. So that's the second ingredient. Third ingredient is you should learn out loud. When you learn, you don't just think it to yourself. You say the words out loud. So they asked the Rebbe, where are these three ingredients alluded to in the first pasuk? So he said, very simple. We start with Zois, Chukas, HaTorah. Zois Chukas HaTorah is Rashi Tevos Zechar al Tishkach. Remember, don't forget. Zois Chukas HaTorah. Zois, in other words, Zois. Zois is Rashi Tevos Zechar al Tishkach. Chukas HaTorah. This is the halacha of how you learn Torah. Asher Tziva.
101.
Tziva is 101. Right? Sadi, Vav, Hey. 101. So first thing is you have to review your learning 101 times. Now, next thing. Hashem. Yud Kei Vav Kei. Lamor! To say it out loud. Those are the three ingredients. Zois. Zechar al Tishkach. Remember, don't forget. Number one is Asher Tziva, 101 times. Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Lamor, say it out loud. Okay, very nice. This was the Drasha the Klausenberg Rebbe was giving in Auschwitz. Now, two questions. Why is the Klausenberg Rebbe darshaning about the red cow in Auschwitz? You think the people over there, emaciated, on the brink of death, could care less about the red cow?
They wouldn't take
They don't need the red cow. Why is he talking about the red cow? Well, first of all, refer you back to Monday's Shiur. The concept of the Parah Adumah is the mysterious mitzvah. The mitzvah where it's metameis hatahirim and metahar hatameim. It's paradoxical, right? The Parah Adumah reminds you of a certain phenomenon in life. And what is that? Tzadik v'raloi, Rasha v'toivloi. The paradoxical nature of the Parah Adumah is the mitzvah that is given to help a person deal with those things in life that cannot be made sense out of. The purpose of the Parah Adumah is to help a person cope and understand that the same way there are mitzvahs in this world that we don't understand, there are events in this world that we don't understand. And that is specifically why this mitzvah is given when someone comes into contact with a dead body. Because when you come into contact with a mace, and now you have questions, Tzadik v'raloi, Rasha v'toivloi, how do we understand what happened to this person? The answer is Parah Adumah. Not everything in life we understand. So that could be why he is specifically darshaning the Parsha of Parah Adumah. Here they're dealing with probably the greatest mystery in the history of the world. In Jewish history, is there any event which baffles the mind more than the Holocaust? Very possibly that is why the Klausenberg Rebbe was darshaning the Parsha Parah Adumah. But let's just take it one step further, and that is, why is he learning out of Parah Adumah the secret to how to be successful in learning? If you want to know, where do you learn out, right? If I were to ask you, if you want to know the secret to be successful in learning, where should you learn it out from? I don't know, the Parsha of Shema, the last Parsha in the Torah, Parshas Yisroi, that talks about the giving of the Torah. I mean, the last place you would think of to learn out how to be successful in learning Torah is the red cow. Why are we learning out how to be successful from the red cow? Another thing. Toward the end of the Inyan of Parah Adumah, it says, Zois ha-Torah Adam ki amos be'ayel kol ha'ayel v'chasher be'ayel yitma shivas yamim. It says, this is the Torah, a man that dies in a tent. There's a famous Drasha of Reish Lakish. Kedama Reish Lakish. Look in Bracha Samach Gimel Amud Beis. Kedama Reish Lakish. Minayin shein devrei Torah miskaymin el v'miv shemei misatzma yoleh. In whom does the Torah have a future? In other words, who will be successful in learning Torah? Not someone who thinks, yeah, I'm going to learn, but I'm going to rest in my hammock, I'm going to sip lemonade, someone's going to feed me grapes and fan me, and I'll have the peace of mind to be able to learn. No. Torah doesn't work that way. Yeah. You want to be successful in learning, you got to kill yourself. Now, what does it mean, kill yourself? It means sometimes you're learning, you're thirsty, you're hungry, you're tired, you'd rather do something more exciting. You have to sort of exert yourself and sacrifice a little bit. Reish Lakish learns out that if you want to be successful in learning, Ein devrei Torah miskaymin el v'mi shemei misatzma yoleh. Where does Reish Lakish learn this from? Zois ha-Torah Adam ki yamos ba'ayal. You want to be successful in learning, you have to be mei misatzma yoleh. Why are we learning out that to be successful in Torah, you need to sacrifice yourself? Why learn that out from the mitzvah of Parah Adumah? What does Parah Adumah have to do with sacrificing yourself for learning Torah? This is not a mitzvah of learning Torah. This is a mitzvah of burning a red cow. So again, we see that not only the Klausenberg Rebbe, but Chazal, the Gemara, Reish Lakish learns out how to be successful in learning Torah from the Parah Adumah, from the red cow. Another interesting thing is, when God gave us the Torah, the 6th day of Sivan, Vav Sivan. However, He gave us 3 mitzvahs before that, right when we left Mitzrayim, when we got to Mara, Hashem gave us 3 mitzvahs. Pasuk says in Mishalach, Vayitzak al Hashem, Vayireu Hashem eitz. God showed us, Hashem showed him the wood, and He threw it in the water, and the water became sweet. Sham Sam Lai Chayk. Hashem gave us a chayk, umishpat, v'sham nisa. What were the mitzvahs that Hashem gave there? Says Rashi.
Shabbos and
Torah, Shabbos, Parah Adumah, and Dinim. Shabbos, Parah Adumah, and by the way, when we say Ozmi Sinai nitztavu aleha. What do you mean Ozmi Sinai? Even before Sinai, we got Shabbos. Where? Mara. Ozmi Sinai. Yeah, even before Mara, even before Kabbalah Torah. Now, if you ask me, if I was giving the Torah to Jewish people, or if I ask you, you have it here, Rabbi Glatstein, let's take a poll. Okay, you're giving the Torah to Jewish people, but I'm giving you 3 choices, 3 options. You could give them 3 mitzvahs before you give the rest of the Torah. Which 3 mitzvahs would you choose?
Shabbat for sure.
Good to know. Why Shabbos for sure? You like fish? Okay, Shabbos I get. Shabbos is a sign that Hashem created the world, right? Mila. Shabbos I get. Dinim I get. Look, we got to have a civilized society. We got to make it to Har Sinai, you know. And there's a Chazal that say Kibbut Avayim. Okay, that makes sense. That's the most logical mitzvah.
Talmud Torah.
Talmud Torah, maybe. But guess what? And now let me ask you a question. What would be the last thing on your list to give the Jewish people before the Torah was given? Parah Adumah. Number one, you can't do the Parah Adumah if you don't have an oil moyed. So, what point would there be to give them a mitzvah that's not even nogea? They're not Tamei Meis anyway. They're not even Jews. The last mitzvah on anyone's, if I gave you a list, everyone make the same list, probably every other choice would be different. But the last one, I believe, on everyone's list would be Parah Adumah, and yet it was the first one on Hashem's list. Hashem gave us the mitzvah of Parah Adumah before the Torah was given.
But that's not when they actually did it.
That's not when they did it, which begs the question, why would he give us a mitzvah that you can't even perform? So we come to the final offering for today, number 7, the Emes L'Yaakov, Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky. And Rabbi Yaakov quotes Rashi that the Satan and the nations of the world instigate Klal Yisrael. They're moinin es Yisrael. What does moinin mean? Oh, what?
Counting.
They oppress, insult, like Lashon Oinoas Devarim. Yeah? By the way, I saw what's so harsh here is sometimes the Umas Ha'olam bother us, right? Sometimes the Goyim bother us. Let's say, right? And other times the Satan bothers us. But when you have the tag team of the Satan and the Umas Ha'olam together, that's a tough combination, right? And they ask us, what is this? And we say it's a chayk. Says Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, let's read it inside. He says, "Nira the ikara shel Parah Adumah, the main paradox of the Parah Adumah, he dineha are its laws, shehi metaheres tameim v'tama tahirim, that it makes pure the impure and vice versa, which are the dinim and not necessarily the fulfillment." Says Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky that the Sefer HaChinuch writes that even though my heart has inspired me to write the reasons for mitzvahs, says the Chinuch, in this mitzvah, I'm afraid to open up my mouth. Because even to offer even a simple reason, it's so deep. Even Shlomo HaMelech was baffled by it, and therefore says the Sefer HaChinuch, I'm not going to offer. So ask Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, it's a tema. Did the Sefer HaChinuch think that when it came to the other mitzvahs, he did get it right? Like he said, when it comes to this mitzvah, even Shlomo didn't know it, so I'm not even going to give it a shot. It's a little presumptuous. Like, but don't worry, I got the other 612. He says, how could that be? We don't hold like Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon is Doiresh Taima Dekra. Right? You know that? Reb Shimon is Doiresh Taima Dekra, but we hold not to be Darshan Taima Dekra. That means, did the Sefer HaChinuch really think he got the reasons for the other mitzvahs? I'll just tell you something on that point. Reb Shimon is Doiresh Taima Dekra. If you look at Rashi in Parshas Vayishlach, when Esav came to kiss Yaakov, it says Vayishakeyu. What does it say on the word Vayishakeyu? Dots. To tell you the opposite. That what? You would have thought Amar Reb Shimon halacha biyadua Esav soinei liYaakov. Really, if you see Esav coming to Yaakov, what's Esav going to do? He's probably going to kill him. The dots say that he kissed him b'leiv shalem, the opposite of what you would thought. But Reb Shimon says the words, Amar Reb Shimon, halacha biyadua, Esav soinei liYaakov. I once heard somebody say, halacha l'Moshe misinai, Esav soinei Yaakov. No, it doesn't say that. It's halacha biyadua, Esav soinei liYaakov. Of all Tanaim, who said the rule, Esav soinei liYaakov? Reb Shimon. Why? So I once heard from Rabbi Warman, in the name of Rabbi Menachem Zemba, Hashem Yimkom Dama. My grandfather was a Ben Bayis by Menachem Zemba, one of the biggest lamdanim of the Dar. He's also a tremendous guy, tremendous lamdin, also a tremendous Baal Midos. He was a Ger Chassid, and he would go to the Rebbe and stand by the Tish like everybody else, with thousands and thousands of people. And by one Tish, there was a guy, you were packed in like sardines. He was leaning into the back of Rabbi Menachem Zemba with his elbows in his back, like enough that you could paralyze someone, for like 5 hours straight. And after the Tish, he realized who was he like nearly killing? Rabbi Menachem Zemba. So he apologized. I apologize to the goyim that, I'm rubbing my elbows into your spinal cord. He said, no, when we come to the Rebbe, we're all equal, A tremendous Baal Midos, Reb Menachem Zemba. Reb Menachem Zemba said, of all the Tanoim, it was Reb Shimon who said Halacha b'Yadua Esus Anei. Why? Because Reb Shimon is Doresh Time of the Kra. Reb Shimon says the reason for every single mitzvah. But when it comes to anti-Semitism, Reb Shimon says there's no reason for it. Halacha b'Yadua. It's just an immutable law of the universe. There's no reason. This reason, we're too rich, we're too poor, we control the economy, we take from the economy, we assimilate, we were too distant. There's no reason. There's no reason for anti-Semitism. It's halacha biyadua. And there's no one who could tell us that better than Reb Shimon himself, who's Dorish time in the Quran.
Does that mean that a Ben Esav who doesn't hate a Jew is over?
No, it's just there's no such thing. It's halacha biyadua. It's part of their. By the way, I was just remembering, my grandfather wrote in his memoirs that when the Americans liberated his group, some of the Nazis came over to the Americans and said, "It's not our fault, it's in our blood." And they try to use that as an excuse even. In other words, what do you want from us? It's in our blood. Okay. So, says Rabbi Yaakov, did the Sefer HaChinuch really think he got the reason for the mitzvahs? The answer is, Vadai, according to Reb Shimon, if there's no reason for a mitzvah, the mitzvah changes. Like Reb Shimon says, that if the Amana is wealthy, the Gemara says, we take a mashkon. But we hold that we're not Dorish time of the Krah. That means if we hold we're not Dorish time of the Krah, that means we agree that if the reason for a mitzvah doesn't apply, we still do it. So if we still do it, why is it troubling the chinuch to just throw out a reason for the Parah Adumah? In other words, it's not like, let's say he says the reason for Parah Adumah is the reason X, Y, and Z. What's he afraid of? That we're going to think that where the reason doesn't apply, we don't have to do the mitzvah? We don't hold that way anyway. We're not Dorish time of the Krah. The answer is, the whole purpose of Parah Adumah is that it should not have a reason. The purpose of Parah Adumah is for a person to realize that there is no logic to it. Why should a person think there's no logic to the mitzvah? Because a person has to understand that Torah is lamala miseichel enushi. That as brilliant as you are, and as much as you think you could understand it, Torah is a discipline that's beyond. Why are the hands tamei and the rest of the body not? Why is anything? Why is the sheni make the water into a rishon? You're going to start philosophizing? You can, but we all have to understand. Torah it's not math. Math is 1 + 1 is 2. It's a formula. It's something you could see. It's a wisdom that is black and white, and you could predict and you could understand. Torah is lamala miseichel anushi. And what teaches you that? There's only one mitzvah in the Torah where we see that Torah is lamala miseichel anushi, and that's the Parah Adumah.
What about shatnez?
Even shatnez is not as lamala. There are reasons for shatnez. Rebbe Glatstein says that wool is the offering of Hevel, and Hevel offered the sheep, and linen is from Pishtan, was the offering of Kayin, and you can't mix Kayin and Hevel. But, says Rabbi Glatstein, and in order to teach us this, the Rebbe gave, as an introduction to the Torah, he gave us 3 mitzvahs. Shabbos we get. Dinim we get. Parah Adumah, why would Hashem give us Parah Adumah? We can't even do the mitzvah. The answer is, it's not a matter of fulfilling the mitzvah. It's a matter of learning the mitzvah. And if you learn the mitzvah of Parah Adumah, that is the proper introduction to the rest of the Torah, that the Torah is something which is above and beyond human reason. And that was lesson number 1. Before God brought us to Har Sinai, He said, wait a second. Before you come to Har Sinai, I don't want you to think that what I'm going to give you on Har Sinai is biology 101, chemistry 101, physics 101, history 101, language 101. No. It's not a discipline that you could map out and say, okay, I got it. It's Parah Adumah. Bottom line is, it's a discipline that's lamala miseichel anushi, and therefore the first introduction to Torah is at Mara Parah Adumah. Says Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, now that we know that Torah is Lamala Miseichel Anushi, that is why Reish Lakish picks the Parsha, Parah Adumah, to glean that if you want to understand Torah, you got to be made, you need to sacrifice. See, what do I have to sacrifice to understand Torah? You don't have to sacrifice to understand math. You just have to learn it. If, let's say, you're reading physics and you're leaning back on your chair and you're sipping lemonade and you're being fanned and you have all the comforts, it will go in quite well. I mean, nobody would say, to understand physics, you need to sit there and schwitz. Yeah, you learn it. However, you learn anything. But so why isn't Torah that way? Why do you have to schwitz to be successful in learning? Why do you need an element of sacrifice? Because Torah is not a regular discipline. Torah is lamala miseichel anushi. It's a discipline that is above and beyond human logic. Says Reish Lakish, that's why in the Parsha Parah Adumah, which is the Parsha that teaches you that Torah is above and beyond human reason, the Torah teaches you, and if you want to acquire it, there are ingredients that are also something that you would not have thought of, something above and beyond human reason. Take a look in the last paragraph. Ulefizeh. And according to this, Yesh lahavin ma'ashadarshu Chazal, you can understand the Drasha of Chazal. Me'apasuk de lahalon, zois ha'torah adam kiyamas b'ayal. She'en ha'torah miskayemes, the Torah is only sustained and fulfilled b'misha meimis atzmai aleha. De l'chayra tamua, it's a wonder, asked Rabbi Yaakov, mai shaita the high drasha l'parshas Parah Adumah. What does the drasha of learning Torah with sacrifice have to do with Parah Adumah? Wouldn't it have been better in the Parsha of Shema to say, by the way, you want to be successful in learning, you got to sacrifice? According to what we learned, it comes out very good. Since this Parsha is the prep to accept the Torah, and the Torah is above and beyond our own understanding, therefore Hashem is alluding to us, now you could understand why. If you want to be successful in acquiring it, there are ingredients that are also above and beyond Seichel Anushi, and that is, you need Amelos, you need Yegia, because this is a supernatural discipline. And then now we understand two reasons. First of all, in Auschwitz, the Klausenberg Rebbe was darshaning this Indian of Parah Adumah. Number one, to understand that just like, how do you make sense out of events that happen in this world that are above and beyond human reason? Well, that's why Hashem gave us certain mitzvahs to prepare us. There are certain mitzvahs that you see from the mitzvah that there's no way to explain it. It means Darchei Hashem Nestaros, the ways of God are mysterious. And just like there are mitzvahs that are mysterious, there are events in life that are mysterious. And also why the Klausenberg Rebbe was teaching that if you want to be successful in learning, what are the three keys? None of them seem to make too much sense. You want to be successful, you have to learn 101 times? Why? I know it already. To know 9 times 9 is 81, you have to learn 101 times? To understand math, you have to picture different formulas in your head. Why do you have to think about Yud Kei Vav Kei? To understand Torah, you have to say it out loud. 1 plus 1 equals 2. You could think it also. You don't have to say it, right? To understand history, you have to say it out loud. Who cares? You just learn it. Torah is not a regular discipline. For Torah, there are supernatural ways of acquiring it, and the source of this is the Parsha Parah Adumah, because Parah Adumah teaches you that Torah is above and beyond human logic. Rabbi say,
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.